when we filed the bankruptcy, I was feeling down and feeling like, man, I failed. If I'm honest with you, the week after I filed the bankruptcy, I was like, oh, thank God. The world is better because life didn't end and I could still operate, and try doing stuff. I just couldn't borrow money for a while.
Welcome to the Flywheel Effect, sponsored by Vital. Vital is your place to take benchmarking and business optimization so you can turn your company from a job into a business. I'm your host, Brent Sonnek-Schmelz. Matt Bernath is taking the week off, but I have as a guest, Andy Seeley. Andy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Brent?
I'm doing great. Now, Andy runs a marketing agency called Creatively Disruptive, where he helps a variety of small businesses, including home services, as well as kids services, to increase their leads and optimize their ability to find customers and grow. We're going to get into a little bit of that. But first, Andy, you are a Kiwi, and I assume you played a lot of rugby when you were younger.
Yes.
What was your position?
Center was my main
Center.
position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Inside or outside? Center.
Inside.
I played a lot of rugby through grad school and college, and I started out as a prop, herniated a disc in my neck, and then moved to inside center, which was a whole lot more fun.
I liked inside center because there's lots of tackling, but you also get to do some kicking. So I was a decent kicker, and I loved tackling. So,
do you keep up on it now?
Funnily enough, I came over to the United States coaching rugby. So
Really?
The reason why I'm in the United States is because of rugby. I coach rugby in Chicago. I came in there. I was supposed to just stay here 6 months, and I ended up staying here 26 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I came into Chicago and worked with the West Side Condors. That year, they went to the final of the second division.
Okay.
And then I worked with the Northwest Woodsmen, and then went out west, and I worked a lot with Aztecs in San Diego. Started a couple of school programs, and so I was more coaching than playing in the United States, that's for sure.
Wow. That's really cool. Coaching rugby brought you here. I mean, I have to imagine that the quality of the game being from New Zealand and coming here changed a lot.
Yeah. The quality, I mean, I'm not going to diminish American rugby, at least at club level, but definitely not as well organized and structured and funded as, the UK, because I did a lot of playing in the UK, but my coaching, started in New Zealand and came over here. Basically, in a nutshell, after about 5 months, I realized that if I actually was going to stay here any kind of length of time, I actually had to get a real job because it wasn't going to pay much.
And what was that job?
My first job, funnily enough, was as a pizza delivery guy.
Really?
Probably to this day, the most fun job I ever had.
What made pizza delivery so fun? Was it the other pizza delivery guys, or was it going out in the street?
I think it was driving around. I mean, I was lucky enough to be in a nice neighborhood in Chicago, in the Chicago area. And it was driving around and dropping off pizzas and seeing people listening to baseball games during the summer as I'm driving around. And it was just low stress. I wasn't stressed out. Maybe I needed to be more stressed out and get those pizzas out faster, but I just enjoyed going around and interacting with the other staff members. It was fun. I mean, it didn't earn as much money, but from a pure memory, like, how as things get, and this is 26 years ago, so as things kind of like roll out, the years go by, you only remember the good stuff. And I just remember listening to the Cubs playing in the summer, big tips, fun, maybe the accent helped. It was just fun.
The accent definitely helped. I mean, the New Zealand accent is I'll call it an inviting accent. Like, it's not, as to Americans anyway, it's one of those that draws people in. So imagine when you show up at somebody's door with a pizza and you're speaking to them as a Kiwi, all of a sudden they're talking to you, right? Like,
right.
Well,
yeah.
And you end this conversation, and that probably would be pretty fun. So for you,
yeah,
someone likes to talk.
And the pizza restaurant had this cool thing that they gave the drivers a whole bunch of like soft drinks in a cooler, and we could choose who to just give one to. So if we were going to somebody that we knew were a regular that looked after us and took care of us, hey, I'd like to give you this, blah, blah, blah. And it was always just a really nice I just have good memories of it. It's just really, really positive.
We probably got paid back more in value of that soda and tips by doing that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. And so then did that pizza business really, did you would take that and leverage that and understand what selling pizza is and turning it into marketing? Or how did you end up doing this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the funny thing. That's true. Because a lot of my work before that, because I was in my mid-20s, kind of just out of college at that point, or early 20s. So prior to that, my work had mainly been in sales, but that pizza delivery did turn into managing that pizza restaurant. So I did end up managing that pizza restaurant, and because the owner wasn't making enough money to actually be able to pay it, so take this little immigrant who doesn't really know what's going on, put him in charge while he went and got a job working for Commonwealth Edison. He was a lineman or something, I think it was. And he said, look, your job is to try to grow this business. And one of the things I saw right away was that lunch was really, really slow in this restaurant. And it was surrounded by kind of pretty highfalutin office buildings with lots teeming with, office staff and so forth. One of the things we did was I brought on one of the night delivery guys, or I started with me just making loads of pizzas.
Mm-hmm.
And decided to start, and it was just me and the pizza maker. I made loads of pizzas, maybe about 20, and I'd just go to all of the offices and just bring them a free pizza. Then I'd leave them a reorder sheet.
Right.
And I did that for probably 3 weeks, and then we started getting orders coming through. And then as I offered them pizzas and I'd pick up cards, I put it on a fax machine list back in the day.
Right.
And every morning I'd fax through a menu to all of the people, and we ended up actually doing really good lunch business, which the company had never done. And that was really successful. I do believe that ended up helping the regular business because there was a lot more people trying the pizza in the local area. What ended up happening though is I did so well that I lost the job because the owner of the business was like, "Oh, this is doing really well. I'm going to come back to it." And he said, "I don't need you to do this anymore. I'm going to do it." And he let me go.
Did they keep doing seems like you had a pretty cool program. Did he keep up your program? Or did
I think so. Yeah, I think he did. He ultimately sold the restaurant probably a couple of years later because it was work. You know how there's some people that think getting into business means they're not going to have to work as much.
So many do.
You can work and build your business to the point where you don't work as much. Like I've got to say, if I'm honest right now, day to day, I don't do as much stuff with my business at all. Most of my work is trying to figure out how to move forward and where we're going to go and what's the next step. But I'm not doing the day-to-day stuff. Probably 10% of my week is working on in the business in some way, and that's mainly because the team reaches out to me. So so you can get to that stage, but the early stages or a lot of businesses, there's work that needs to be done. And I actually believe even when you get to the stage that we're at, I could just go on lots of vacations and everything, but the business wouldn't forge ahead. And I want to grow. I want to get somewhere. I want to do things. So if I'm not doing what I'm doing, the business will just kind of stay where it's at. I mean, it might grow a little bit and just go along, but it's only going to make the major changes, and the major steps if I'm actually leading that. So, you could argue that, you got to work. It's like when people hire us, oftentimes there's a group of clients that I'm always a little confused by. And I actually end up having to have a conversation with them. And I'm like, and they hire us thinking we're going to take lots of stuff off of them. We're done. Okay, I'm not going to be as busy anymore. This is good. And I say, look, the point of hiring us is for you to be really busy.
Right.
The point is not for you to not be busy. Like my hope is if you start working with us, you're going to be really busy, and it's going to cause you other problems that you got to figure out, right? Because there's going to be so much business. I think he took it back and then realized that there was a lot of work going on, things to do, and he ended up selling it. But it was really good for me. It's probably a turning point there. I came to America with a very strong immigrant entrepreneurial kind of spirit. I came here with $500 in a backpack and a rugby ball.
Right.
And the goal was after 6 months to go to England. And the trajectory of my life would have been very different if I'd gone to England. And it probably would have been very different if I just stayed in the pizza restaurant. Who knows? I might have been the guy who bought the pizza restaurant from the guy, but I'm kind of glad that happened. At the time, I was like, what? If I do all this stuff where you get to the point that you don't have to work on the lines and you let me go, I was kind of a little bit annoyed by it. But the reality was, I think it was really good because that next position, I got a job with CarMax. And CarMax at the time, they used to be owned by Circuit City. And CarMax was in a big expansion. My dad had in New Zealand, my dad had a lot of experience in the auto industry. He was a mechanic, and then he became a service manager, and then he was like second in charge of a dealership, then he was in charge of a dealership. So I grew up kind of around auto dealers.
Me too. My family's been car dealers for 100 years.
There you go. So I was a senior sales manager for CarMax, opening stores around, this is around 2000, 2001. I was opening, when they started to expand.
Yeah, that was like the hot CarMax. What is CarMax doing kind of time?
Yeah, so I opened multiple stores, and then after about 4 years of doing that, my wife, who was a gymnastics coach, very successful gymnastics coach, worked with quite a successful gym and gym owner. She wanted to own her own gym, and she found a gym in Tahoe, California. And we decided to buy that because it was like, I was kind of getting sick of the auto industry and moving around. And it was like, I just didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And I was like, okay, you do your thing, right? So we went out there, we bought this gym. We ran that for about 12 years or so. During that period, I got a job working for a TV station as their sales director. And that kind of like built a little bit more in the messaging and sales part of my experience. And obviously running a small business for the first time. That was like the first opportunity. That was about 20 something years ago. Running our first small business went really, really well. And then the Great Recession hit and it slammed that little business. We lost half the kids that were involved with it in 1 month. So we lost half of our revenue in 1 month. And then that was another learning experience. And that was how to keep a business afloat during really tough times when everybody's scared and you're earning half the money that you were. It taught me how to do all sorts of things. I mean, it didn't teach me really well because we actually did file a Chapter 13 to get out of that business. Okay. Yeah, it was really rough. I mean, I kept borrowing money to keep the business going and keep people employed. It's something I've learned now is I'm never going to borrow money to keep somebody else, to keep paying somebody if I don't actually see how it's going to end. Don't borrow money to prop up a business that's floundering. There'd be other things that we'd probably do now, but it was all a very strong learning curve. I think I learned more out of those tough times than I did when there was good times, and definitely I think more than actually if I went to a business college. Came out with that with some really strong beliefs and thoughts, and we ultimately didn't close that business down. We actually rescued it, saved it, and sold it, and we're able to get through the restructuring bankruptcy. And
that's great. You keyed on a few things during that, which I want to highlight because I think they're really interesting and things that I think about regularly. The first thing is kind of cycle all the way back when you talk about the pizza place and how entrepreneurs often think that being the boss means you don't have to work. And I see this way too often. So I used to run a franchise company called Soccer Post with my brother, and he still has it. And soccer franchise, it's all small business, retail franchise, you may have a nice living, but a lot of times it's people who always worked for somebody. And I think I saw this in some, not every franchisee, but some franchisees, when they signed up, they're like, hey, they used to work for somebody, but now they see, hey, I can be the boss. And they thought their boss didn't work, that all the value was created by their hard work. And they didn't realize all the stuff that had to be done that their boss did that they didn't see. And so now they're going to hear that, okay, now I'm the boss, I'm on easy street, I'll have other people working for me. And then they get in there and they're like, oh my God, I'm up late at night doing the books, or I got to figure out how to make payroll, which is another issue we'll talk about. Or the guy who's working the floor today didn't show up, I'm going to be on the floor for 16 hours. Like all of this stuff. And it's so common for people that were employees all their lives to then when they become a small business owner, to not realize the intensity of that work. And it's a shock to their system.
And it's not just the intensity of the work, it's the responsibility
Right.
of what you're doing too. You're responsible to your landlord, you're responsible to your employees, you're responsible to the government, making sure you pay. There's so many people with their hand out wanting you to take care of them, or you've got a responsibility to take care of something. That in itself is something you never turn off. It's like one of the things I kind of enjoy about my work, but it's also, it has its own negatives, is I never really stop working. Right now, physically, I might not be sitting here talking to you. Let's say if you're a client, right? I might not be doing that, but I can be lying in the pool at 9 o'clock at night, staring at the stars. And inevitably what ends up happening is I start thinking, oh, there's this thing. Okay, that problem. How do we figure this out?
Right.
Never stops. And
no, never
you've got to like that. You've got to enjoy that. If you don't enjoy that, I don't recommend owning your business, because that's kind of what it's about.
And it's like, bring up an example, you talk about car dealerships. One of the beautiful things about being a technician in a car dealership, if you just you're happy being a technician, is you show up, they give you a shirt, you put it on, you work from 8 to 5, you bill your hours, and if you're good, you're billing more hours than you're working. If that's the way it works here. And then you take that shirt off at 5 o'clock, put it in the hamper, go home, have dinner with your family, do whatever, don't have to think about a thing, and then just show up the next day. Like, that's totally cool. And it's a great, if you're able to make a living that pays yourself, which in that job you actually can, you have a great life. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a different mentality than always on. Like, I'm always on too. I'm always on too.
There is a thing, like, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And I think that's a reason, Brent, why so many businesses fail. I don't think the business landscape is so dangerous that businesses fail because the business landscape just eats people up. I don't think that's the way it is. I think for the right people, there's loads of money to make. There's loads of opportunity. The United States, as far as I'm concerned, for a small business owner, is a bottomless pit of opportunity. The reason in my mind why business owners fail is because they're not prepared. They don't understand what it's going to be, and they ultimately really, it's not for them. They don't like it. They don't like the battle. They don't like the challenge. They don't like what comes with it, right? And a lot of people find it very negative or stressful and just too much, and they either shy away from the stuff that they've got to deal with, so they never really deal with the elephant in the room, and the elephant ends up eating up their business, or they just close it down because they're like, I just realized this is not what I wanted. And I think that's the main reason why small businesses fail, is because a lot of them, the ones that fail, a lot of them are the first time small business owners. They don't quite understand what's going on. They do have that mentality that you had, that you mentioned about, well, if I'm the boss, I don't have to work as much because the employees do all the work. The reality is, especially if you've got young employees, especially if you've got inexperienced employees, every move they make, they almost look at you. They look, should I do this? Is this what I want? Should I be doing this? And it's this constant needing to give feedback and managing, and it's quite intense to make sure that you're getting them to do what needs to be done. And it's, it's a thing, right? And it's real. And for me, more than anything, and that's kind of, headed towards talking about that bankruptcy. The bankruptcy happened because I had such a strong feeling of responsibility to my staff that I borrowed loads of money without, I think it's okay for businesses to borrow money when there's a cash flow dip. When they know that cash, I know the cash flow is dips here, but I know when it's going to finish, I'm going to borrow some money to get through that cash flow dip. What's not okay, which is what I did, was there was a business dip, and I was trying to keep things the way it was with borrowing money. Yeah. Rather than totally pivoting and changing the business to fit that new reality. Because I was thinking, it'll come back, but it was 3 years before it came back, and that was a lot of debt that we put on ourselves.
I've been there too. Andy. Yeah. Same period, early 2010, 2011 timeframe.
Yeah.
And I had a startup kind of beverage company that we had expectations as far as its growth overhired, kind of on sales reps and things. And the volume and did not really pick up the way we expected. And I reached in my pocket, to make payroll to keep people employed for well over a year, when the right decision was, hey, we made we made some mistakes. And this, in our case, you're a little different because it's just a change in business environment. That I call it like the entrepreneurial blinders that tomorrow is always going to be better. And,
Right.
I think you need that dose of reality sometimes. Say, look, you need to deal with what's real today. And if things get better later, you can always go back or grow
Right.
or hire more people. But no, like it
But
happens all the time too.
I tell you, though, again, I don't regret and don't feel bad about any of the history that we had during that period. It was stressful. It was rough. When we filed the bankruptcy, I was feeling down and feeling like, man, I failed, blah, blah, blah. If I'm honest with you, the week after I filed the bankruptcy, I was like, oh, thank God. The world is better because life didn't end and I could still operate, and try doing stuff. I just couldn't borrow money for a while. Right. But I could still be smart. I could still hustle. I could still do the things that I needed to do. And quite frankly, we did start another business at that point, well, after I filed bankruptcy. And that was a media company, which is kind of like this current company that we have kind of came from. It was called Getaway. And you can actually still see Getaway San Diego, Getaway Reno Tahoe on YouTube, where we were filming and doing and going to restaurants and going to different places. And we actually had a magazine that we printed and we put into hotel rooms and so forth. And it was kind of like this unique thing where it was magazines with QR codes in them so you could scan them and watch videos and blah, blah, blah. And it did quite well. And we ended up selling that in 2015. And that's when Creatively Disruptive started.
Okay.
Now, Creatively Disruptive was founded on some principles based on my partner and I's experience during those tough times. And those principles were thinking of that small business owner who has all those responsibilities and how do we help them and how do we let them know that they're not alone, because both of us, because my business partner has had similar experiences with failures and ups and downs prior to this business. And we founded Creatively Disruptive on the fact that we wanted to be that company that after staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. in the morning, which most entrepreneurs do, a few times a year, that instead of going, I don't know what to do and I can't sleep until I get up, that maybe, hey, you can go to sleep because in the morning you can wake up and reach out to Creatively Disruptive and we're going to be there with you to solve these problems. And that is a real guiding principle of how we operate, to be, most issues can be solved. Most issues are not quite as big as you think they are. Just recently I had a client in Austin who had, his gross revenue was about $70,000. He had a $30,000 loan a month, right? And, we walked through how can we get him out of that so he doesn't have to lose his business or file bankruptcy, because he was thinking of doing that. And we actually worked through a whole bunch of options and we were actually able to figure it. My experience of having the experience that I had did actually help him. And I told him, here's the direction that you're heading. Here's some of the options that you should look at before you actually go and file a bankruptcy and give up on everything. Because he would have done the chapter 7 and just got rid of everything. And we are actually able to fix it. And now he's actually got to a point in a short period of time where he's actually looking to expand his business. And that kind of fits in that realm of all of our clients. Whilst we do a lot of work with the marketing, we do a lot of work with driving new business to you. We learned pretty quickly that just getting more people knocking on your door is not enough. We've helped our clients. We actually got trainings. There's actually a training on our YouTube channel about how to solve staffing issues. We've done training for front desks and client services teams, teaching them on how to handle calls, how to build more capacity. Because if you hire me on and I build you up and you're at capacity, there's a risk that I have that you might be like, well, I'm at capacity. I don't need to do any more marketing. I'll cut this thing out. I would say that would be a mistake, but you might, a lot of business owners think that way. So I would have a conversation with you. How do we expand your capacity? How do we allow you to have more business? How do we, if we can't expand your capacity, how do we help your profitability so you make more money? Because if there's a capacity issue and you can't expand capacity, but you have lots of demand, then what does that mean? It means it's an opportunity to raise prices. So We actually have a little bit of business consulting that goes on as well, based on what we see across the 100 odd clients that we have, and we take the best from all those clients and we share them with our other clients, and we're like, hey, look, here's what this client has done, here's what that client has done, here's how we can solve this to get through. Because if we don't, as a marketing company, because marketing companies are dime a dozen. There's a bazillion and one of them out there. Most of them are full of it. They don't really know what they're doing. And, I'm like, well, if a client has a problem, we're at risk of losing them as a client. So we need to help them fix that problem, even if it's not how does Meta work or what does Google do.
I think it's great. I think it's like, I like in most agencies, not all, most agencies are run by marketing people or creatives or maybe some programmers.
Right.
They're not run by business owners or people who have experienced not running a marketing agency. It's very interesting. What you're talking about to me is like, we have a holistic view of what's the purpose of marketing is to increase sales, increase profit for business. How do we help our company, our clients do that so they want to continue to work in marketing, but also it's the right thing to do. And it's a kind of a refreshing philosophical perspective of the role of a marketing agency as a support network for a company.
Yep. And to give you an example, we had one client that came on board. She was doing quite well, but she was just super stressed out. She was so stressed out. She was burnt out. She wanted to just walk away from the business. Mm-hmm. And basically, I mean, if we were just being, like you said, a marketer, stroke creative or whatever, and we were just running Facebook ads, we wouldn't have done anything for her apart from load up more stress on her.
Right.
And what we ended up doing is we helped her restructure her pay scale and what she was doing from a hiring standpoint, which totally took all the stress out of her business. And she literally sent me personally a $5,000 check, right, written to me, not to the company, which was kind of interesting, saying, thank you very much, you've changed my life. And those kind of things kind of make it all worthwhile, if I'm honest with you, because I do when I see a business owner and the stress to the point that they want to walk away from a business that's profitable, mm-hmm. kind of harks back to my days when we were struggling and really just trying to figure out, how do we go, and we've had enough, because there is that moment, and this is getting back to that 99 or 95% of small businesses fail. A lot of times it's because people walk away from it because it's just too much. It's just too stressful. But to be able to go in and, her main problem, just so, so you guys understand, and it sounds a little bit more realistic, is she had a whole bunch of teenagers working for her, and they would all call off, and she'd be called in all the time, and she couldn't rely on any of her staff. So she was getting called in every single day at all sorts of times, working 80 hours to keep things going. And what we did is we raised the amount that she paid her staff, which meant she got older, more mature staff members that actually had commitments and needed the job. And that went away. And all of a sudden she had a profitable business.
This conversation has gone a completely different way from what I was kind of expecting, and I think it's actually really valuable. I think it's like, look, I mean, basically what we do is running a business is hard. It's stressful. It's difficult, finding sleep. But I really, what I've also identified is sometimes the solutions are not necessarily obvious, but they're also not really difficult.
Right.
And it seems like what you've identified is a few ways to help people that I'm sure half the time they're like, why didn't I think of that myself?
Right. Well, the evolution of our business really came from, one, we wanted to help businesses, and both my business, as I said, my business partner and I had bad experiences in the past, and we wanted to be that person that you thought of at 3 a.m. in the morning to get some help in the morning, so you didn't feel alone. We felt very alone during our difficult periods. We don't want our clients to ever feel alone. We want them to feel like there's 25 people waiting in the morning to tackle their problem. But really, the evolution of the actual nuts and bolts and the tactics of how we operate with a lot of the trainings that we do came from acting like a standard agency where you just run ads and have some success with it. And then realizing that, all these leads that this client is getting means nothing. I mean, most of your clients probably have experience of getting leads and going, oh, these are all crap. None of these work. No one's responding. I'm getting hundreds of leads and 2 customers come out of it. It's not worth it. Right. And we got that. So we were like, okay, well, we know that these are people that are interested in this product. What is the problem here? And what we found out was 9 times out of 10, it wasn't the leads. These were legitimate people looking for the product or service. The problem was the business had never had a steady flow of leads. And they were just used to people reaching out who were wanting to do business then and there, maybe at onesies and twosies instead of 10s and 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And they had no mechanism with how to handle that and how to process those leads, right? And how to work through them to make the most of them. So when that started, and this is going to be a little bit of a process that I'm going to go through with you. When that started, we were like, okay, well, we need to start training them and setting up a process for them, right? Mm-hmm. We need to look at what clients that we have that are having huge success with the same quality of leads. And we started putting together, this is the way that you handle these leads. This is what you do with the leads when the leads come in. We started, instead of the leads just going to the client's email box, we started having them going into a spreadsheet. So it was all nicely organized for them with fields that they can do. Then we found out that, hey, they need somebody who's calling these leads every day. They need to be called at least 7 days, maybe 10 days in a row, called, text, and emailed. And you'll start converting a much larger percentage of them. So we would get to that stage. Then we found that the problem wasn't that they were doing that. The problem was having staff that could do it and that were committed to it. And oftentimes our clients were like, well, now I've got to hire all these people who have to call all these leads. And we're like, well, yeah, if you want them to be customers, I guess that's what you need to do. But then we needed to help them organize all those conversations. Then we figured out that just forcing clients or potential clients to come through a funnel where they fill out a form was leaving a whole bunch of people that might still be interested, but they weren't comfortable with filling out a form. So we figured we built this process called the Amplify method, where we do the marketing, and it allows a client to choose whether they can walk through the door, call you, text you, email you, fill out a lead, message you on Facebook, direct message you on Instagram. And the marketing is kind of allowing the potential customer to choose the way that they feel most comfortable speaking to you, which makes it much more likely that they're going to reach out to you, which makes it much more likely that you'll get an inquiry.
Yep.
Then the next problem is you got all these inquiries coming from all these places, or I shouldn't call them poor little companies, but these companies that weren't used to this had to figure out, what do I have to log into all these platforms? I have to have my staff checking everything all the time. So we built a system that allowed us to get all of that information into one place and be organized. Once we built that system out, we realized that, if a lead comes in at 9:00 in the evening on a Sunday and doesn't get responded to till 9:00 on a Monday, there's a good chance that that's called off. How do we get those inquiries responded to the moment that person reaches out? Because that's when they're thinking about it. So that caused us to develop the AI that we have. So you can look at a 10-year process of going through and finding the roadblocks that our clients have had, trying to unblock them all the way to the point that we are today, where we've got steady inflows of leads. We've got all of the channels being covered. So the clients, potential customers of our customers are comfortable. We've organized it, and now we're making sure that everything is being responded to immediately.
That's great. What I love about that is what I've heard from you is, as opposed to just creating those leads up front, what you identified is one of the things that a lot of small businesses are not good at is developing processes and systems to handle follow-up, to handle the things in their business that need to occur on a regular, repeated basis. But I think that is one of the primary fails, especially in sales. Like, if you don't have systems in place with your sales with a small business, especially when it's client-based like that, retail is maybe a little different because it's, door traffic, but you're not going to be successful because you have no visibility into what the next 6 months to a year are going to look like.
And not having that process means you don't know what's working and what's not. And what ends up happening is is you end up blaming something that wasn't the root problem, which means that oftentimes that you end up losing opportunities or venues or methods because you don't think it works, when really it wasn't that thing that didn't work. Like a lot of times we'll hear from businesses, Facebook doesn't work for me. And then we're like, well, it works for lots of other businesses that are exactly the same as you. Maybe the problem is you, right? A lot of businesses don't like hearing that, especially when we're courting them to be customers. But we will have a conversation. We'll go, okay, when we bring on a new client, there is a consultancy process that we go through to actually find out what is your actual, what's your situation? Because our goal is to make you money, right? If you work with a agency or a marketing company and their main goal isn't your profit line, they're the wrong people to be working with. So we know longevity, and we opened in 2015. We still have clients from 2015, right? That's because we focus on their profit. We focus on how do we increase their profits.
This is great. And this is actually a question I have, because I talk to a lot of integrators and other home service businesses. Yep. And when it comes to hiring an agency, and a lot of them should, I think a lot of companies should hire agencies to handle some aspect of the marketing, because you just can't handle the volume of the work, nor do you have the expertise. So if you want to have a lead funnel, you probably need to figure it out. But, with paying somebody probably is what makes the most sense. But what they struggle with is how to pick someone to help them on their marketing. Like what are the attributes of that company they look at? And also, they struggle with identifying the value it creates instead of looking at it purely as a cost item that they have to pay.
Right. Well, I was at a conference that I was speaking at in June, and a business owner came up to me and said, look, I'm going to hire you because I need to either hire you or I need to hire somebody. And either way, it's going to cost at least XYZ dollars, right? Because it's, marketing is you're hiring a person, and that's what I think a lot of people make the mistake. They go, you know what, agencies are so expensive, and I don't want to spend money and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you go and hire somebody and they're a full-time employee and they know anything about a singular platform, you're probably spending $5,000 to $6,000 a month on them. That's how much a good Facebook ad manager or media buyer would be paid, because that's how much we pay for our guys, right? Yep. A good Google person will be about that amount of money. A good web developer will be about that amount of money. A good email marketer can be about that amount of money. Now you might say, well, I don't need that much work. You're not going to get a good guy to do it unless he's a contractor, and he's going to have other businesses that he's working with too. You're going to be paying money out to do it. Otherwise, if you skimp and save, you're going to lose money. And what I see a lot of small businesses do is, because they look at it and they go, well, I don't want to spend more than a couple of $1,000s a month. Well, if you were hiring any employee in your business, any employee, let's say you're putting in security systems into a house, what are you going to get from your guys that, if you're hiring for the team that goes in to put in that security system in a house, what kind of installer are you going to get for $2,000 a month?
A lousy one.
Right. You're going to get a lousy one, or he's only going to work 5 hours a week or something. Right. So when you're hiring an agency, you need to be thinking the same thing. What I love about agencies, obviously I own one, so I would feel this way, but what I love about agencies is you can pay the same amount that you might pay to a fully fledged Google ad person, or let's say a $5,000 a month installer, right? And you get a Google expert, a Facebook expert, an Instagram expert, an email marketing expert. You get all of those, and that's at the price of a singular person. The other thing that you get is you don't have to keep training them, because the platforms change. Like, the platforms are changing faster and faster and faster. You've got to keep training them.
That's the pitch from every agent. But I think what the problem is that a lot of experience with agencies is that's not what's necessarily delivered, or it's delivered poorly. And they don't feel like they have either your profit at heart, like you mentioned before, or commit the time to understand your business, that they can actually provide valuable support and all those things. Understanding your business. Or it just feels like it's on autopilot, and that's also not good.
And building, you as a business owner, whenever you bring anybody into your company, needs to have some knowledge base, right? And I would suggest that those that have at least some knowledge base on how marketing works and some rudimentary understanding about how the platforms work, that's important, because then you can do the sniff test. You can see if somebody's full of shit and just kind of like just selling you a line, right? The other thing is if they're not thinking and talking about your profitability and where you want to be in 3 years' time, they're just thinking about how do I keep this guy around for 3 months? There's a lot of agencies, there's a lot of services out there. And I'll give you a couple of things to avoid right away. Avoid any organization that says, pay me $15,000 up front, and we've got 3 months that we're going to do some work for you, and then it will all be up, and then you can run it yourself. Nah, that almost always they're taking their $15,000 up front. They're going to the 3 months because they know that you're not going to be able to easily get a charge back on the credit card that they charged. And that's their model. And their model is really good at bringing people in and taking them through that 3-month period. You're unsatisfied, you're unhappy. They know that it's hard for you to go and do a chargeback. They've taken the $15,000, they delivered a half-assed product. And there's a lot of those. A lot of the people that you see, especially on Meta, when they say, hey, we can do this, we can do that, they'll come up and it'll be a $15,000 upfront fee. So avoid those guys. Avoid anybody that doesn't talk to you about what your personal goals are for your business, right? What do you want to accomplish? Why do you want to grow? What, are you looking, is there an exit strategy that you want? Do you want to get to a certain revenue number? Then you're going to try to sell the business. We ask all those questions. We actually have a thing called a 12Q plan, which is 12 quarters, 3 years. And we actually say, where are you today? And where do you want to be in 3 years? And we break it down into quarters, and those become our goals. And it's based on profitability and revenue, not how many leads do you want, because there's lots of things that come into that. Us just getting you leads is like 15% of the pie, right? It's very important, but there's another 85% that's really important too.
Yeah.
That's going to be your success or not. And we got to talk about it. We got to work through it.
I think it's great. I think so. What are those that? So it sounds like avoid the quick hit. Hey, we're going to deliver something. Put you on the easy button. Just pay us right now.
Right. Yeah.
Focus on agencies that want to talk about your profit and your long-term plan and understand your personal goals for the business. Are there any other things when you're going through this agency selection? Because this literally paralyzes business owners, because they see a $5,000-$10,000 a month bill. They don't know what they're going to get. They're uncertain. They also don't know how to determine whether they're doing something that they expect. And really what they do is they have to have the tools to pick the right one. What are the other tools?
Yeah. The other things that you want to do is make sure that the agency that you're working with is happy to sit on the same side of the table as you, that it's not us and them. Don't treat them like a vendor, treat them like an employee, right? Which means don't get away with stuff, but treat them with respect. Treat them like part of your team.
Yeah.
Because they are. And a good agency will want to be part of your team, right?
Right.
A good agency will want you to be able to reach out to them, right? There are agencies, again, that will try to like fend you off and don't really want to hear from you as much as possible. They're trying to bring down as much interaction as possible, and that's not a sign of a good agency in my mind. Now, do our clients reach out to us every day? No. So we have some clients that never reach out to us unless we reach out to them, because they're so comfortable with us. They've been with us for such a long time. But we do have other clients that we talk to daily, because that's what's required. That's what's required for them. They want that to be comfortable. So communication is really key, that you feel that you can reach out to them. Now, I do protect my staff from getting calls from Brent at 9:00 at night on a Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't want you yelling and screaming at them. But during work hours, like an employee would be expected, between 9 and 5 or 6, you can reach out and talk to us, and we're part of the team, and we're on the same side of the table as you. We're not a vendor. We actually turn down clients, and we actually fire clients that treat us like an outside entity, that we're not part of them. That doesn't work. We find that becomes an adversarial relationship, and there's no point in that, right? So treat your agency like a employee.
I don't know if that's actually the best advice for some of these small businesses, because
right.
The first step is learn how to treat your employees well too.
Here you go. Like, I'm making the assumption that you treat your employees well. And I also would make the assumption that you're going to treat this employee like an expert, right? That you've got a real expert, that you're not going to tell them and micromanage them. But when they come to you and they say, Brent, we need to do this, we need to do that, we're seeing this roadblock here. This roadblock is you. So we're getting these leads coming in, we're getting these inquiries in, but we're noticing that no one's calling them. We're noticing that they're just getting one email sent back. We know that that's not going to work for you, right? We've got to have a little bit more interaction with these inquiries that are coming in. Now, that kind of feedback, if you take your ego out of it, and that's a great, like as a business owner, I want to be told the tactical things that I'm not doing as a business owner that's causing me to not actually have the success that I want to have, right?
Right.
And that's where a good agency should be able to come in and give you a little bit of guidance as to what you're not actually doing, what you need to be doing. It's not excuses. It's not, don't instantly look at that agency and go, oh, these are just crappy leads and you're just making excuses for it. No, look at it and go, okay, is my team calling these leads? Are we actually reaching out to people? Are we following a process? If the agency that you're looking at doesn't actually have any process that they could give you, right, or experience in saying, this is what successful businesses do, that's actually a warning sign too, right? There will be agencies that you guys will talk to and they will say, well, we're just bringing you, we brought you all the incoming inquiries, that's up to you to figure it out. I would walk away from that kind of partner because they're not really a partner. Right, no. They're doing their part of it. They're sitting on that side of the table. They're delivering what they've said that they would deliver, but they're not actually sitting next to you and going, okay, well, we're getting this, and where's the roadblock? Okay, here's the roadblock, and then there'll be another roadblock. What do we need to do to unplug this roadblock? Part of the 3Q plan is we actually, in our planning sheet, we actually have this sheet, which is, this is what your business is today, but it's going to be different when we get to let's say you're doing $1 million of revenue and we want to take you to $5 million of revenue within 3 years. Your business today is going to be different in 3 years time than what it is today, right?
Radically.
And we need to walk through what that looks like. And we actually have a whole bunch of fields that we fill in and go, okay, what would it look like if we're predicting it now, what we need to do to get to where we want to be? And if you're not having those kind of conversations with your marketing company, you're missing out. And a lot of business owners are technicians, right? They're not business owners, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say it's a gymnastics gym. Almost all gymnastics gyms are founded by gymnastics coaches, right? Let's say it's a bakery. Most bakeries are founded by bakers, right? They're good at baking cakes. They might not be good at selling cakes, right?
Yep.
A lot of plumbers, plumbing companies started by plumbers, right? A lot of home security companies are started by people that have an interest in the home security business, right? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily business owners, right?
Right.
So a lot of times they're thinking about things that are other than the business of converting business, the business of making money.
Oh, they hate it. They hate that side of the business.
Yep. So finding an agency that kind of holds your hand and wants to be part of that with you, that's the key, I think, to a lot of success, because ultimately, see, we're an agency that we're month to month as well. Avoid the agency that's going to force you into a year-long contract or something. That's just ridiculous. You're not going to hire an employee and say, Brent, I'm going to hire you, and there's no way I can fire you for 1 year.
I hate long-term contracts with stuff. It
keeps you honest. We are very motivated to make sure that and I'm starting to feel like this is a bit too much of a commercial for us, but look for an agency that's motivated to keep doing good things and keep you as an interested customer because they know that you could leave next month, right? It's the same as an employee. An employee should be doing at bare minimum enough to not get fired, right?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that everyone, the pitch is always, oh, we're investing a lot of money up front and we have to be certain that you're going to be here. And yours says is, just do your fucking job and you will.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. And I know a lot of times when we have a client, if a client only lasts 3 months, we actually lose money. Our money is on the back end. Like I said, we've got clients that have been with us for 10 years. They're super profitable to us. because all the upfront has been done. So,
I love it.
yep.
So cool. We have a few minutes left, but one thing I want to, more on we talk, this has all been business. It's been fantastic. But on the marketing side, business owners often are kind of on top of it. What are the kind of trends and things that you're seeing on the horizon that people should be aware of from the marketing side?
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm seeing right now that people should be doing now, because it's those who do it will have an advantage over those that don't, and it will be a big advantage, and it will make and break some people. And this is the advent of AI and how you're using it. Now, it's not necessarily sitting down with ChatGPT and asking it questions every 5 minutes. That's useful. I find ChatGPT to be quite useful. But utilizing AI systems with your customer service, with your first contact with people, making sure that people are responded to super, super quickly, right? We now have AI technology which allows anybody that reaches out to your company to be responded to within 30 seconds, if not faster, of that inquiry, right?
Right.
The beauty of that means that you've got a 400 times more likelihood of that person becoming a customer than if you wait more than 5 minutes. 5 minutes is the magic number, right? So AI now, and it's not bots, right? A couple of years ago it was a bot, so it'd be a series of questions that you could answer, and it wasn't
it was awful.
There was nothing. Yeah, it was like a pick your adventure, choose your adventure type thing. Now with AI, we can actually have full on conversations with the customer at 1 o'clock in the morning, because that customer's up and maybe they got a fright and they're thinking, oh, geez, I need to get a new security system put into my house. I'm sick of this. And they go online, they see your ad, and then they start interacting with you. Your AI can actually have a full on conversation with them at 1 a.m. in the morning, to the point where you are scheduled to go over to their house the next day to actually do a quote on installing a new system, right?
Wow.
And if you don't have that set up well in your organization, you're going to fall behind really, really quickly, because that's a now thing. That's happening now. Like, to give you an example, one of our clients, and this isn't obviously a security and technology installation company, but it'll give you a little bit of an idea of kind of how human these things are getting. We have a gymnastics gym, a large gymnastics gym, does about $5 million a year in California. And they brought on we've got a AI system called Kai, which is customer AI. And a grandma was talking to the AI about signing up her grandkid to classes. And the conversation was so nice that the grandma started sending photos of the grandkids to the AI. And the AI was responding with, oh, how lovely, this is so nice, and thank you for sharing this, and blah, 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 blah. To the point that at the end of the conversation, the grandma has been scheduled to come in with their grandkid into the business. And she said, I'm really looking forward to meeting you. It's been a lovely conversation. And the AI said, well, I won't be able to meet you, but one of the team will be able to meet you. So, hopefully, we can take care of you. And the grandma was like, well, why can't I meet you? And she said, well, I'm not real. I'm a digital assistant. And the grandma was like, what? And she was like, yeah, I'm not a real person. I'm a digital assistant. And the grandma was like, holy moly, I'm very excited now to come in. If this is my first experience, this is crazy, right? So, and we're getting to the point now, even our system, our AI system is very close to being able to make phone calls and have a phone call discussion. I think some of us might have had some interaction with talking AI. We're not launching that yet, because we see the problem with the talking AI isn't so much the way it thinks and the way it operates and responds. It's more of the slowness of the internet and the slowness of servers and so forth. It doesn't, me and you having a conversation, Brent, we're like, bum, 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 bum. The problem with talking to an AI is it will be talking to you like this.
Yeah.
And then it starts talking again. And that's enough for you to hang up, right?
Yeah. My interactions on the voice with AI have been, it's not yet the replacement. It feels that it's that touch off that makes it inauthentic.
But the texting AI?
That's fine.
The texting AI, and that is what and here's the good thing about the texting AI, and this is why I don't really care about the voice AI. Gen Z, we know for a fact, Gen Z, they don't want to talk to anybody. They don't want to email anybody. If you're not texting or messaging them on their social media platform of choice, you're not communicating with them. And Gen Z is now 28 years old. right? And they're getting more and more buying power. Young millennials, absolutely basically the same as Gen Z. Older millennials would rather text. I'm a Gen X. I would rather text, to be honest.
I'm a phone.
Yeah.
I'm not going back to pizza. I will not use a pizza app. I'm calling the store and ordering a pizza delivery.
Fair and placing your order.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a really good system to be able to communicate really effectively through text, you're actually missing, like, probably anybody from 45 and under. You're missing how to connect with them effectively. And as they get younger, it's not even just text. It's text, and you got to be able to message them on Instagram. You got to be able to message them on Facebook. Probably more Instagram than Facebook if they're younger. But you got to be able to have this to and fro very, very easily. And you want it to be AI to begin with, because that allows you, when you have a marketing company that's like, when I spoke earlier, I said, get 100 leads and only 2 of them become a customer. Well, then every single one of your 100 leads are being effectively followed up with, effectively worked over, effectively communicated with. All of a sudden, those 100 leads where you only got 2 suddenly becomes 100 leads where you get 40 customers.
I mean, for the 20x would be crazy. But I was even thinking, if you get 4 instead of 2, that's still 100% better, right?
No, you're looking at probably 40% better, right?
That's insane.
Yep.
So
40%, because what happens is, yes, there is dross that comes through in leads, but it's not 80, 90%. It's maybe 20% is absolute just trash, right? The rest of it are legitimate people that have an interest, and you've got to reach out to them immediately, because they just get busy, especially if it's a mum. Like, we find mums are the worst. Mums are the decision maker in the household, but they're the worst because 5 minutes, they're off to something else. Like, they're shopping at Costco, they're picking up a kid, they're taking someone here. Then if they have a job on top of it, very, very hard to track down, right? And you've got to really work hard to get them back into your mix. But if you respond to them within 20 seconds of them asking a question, you'll get them. And that's where that huge conversion rate can come in. So that's why I'm saying, if your listeners aren't getting onto the AI wagon from a client management standpoint, at least that initial client management standpoint, they're going to fall behind really, really quickly. And they'll wonder why is my competitor sucking up all the business and doing so well and I'm struggling? And you might find that they've got an AI doing that initial contact and outreach.
That's fantastic. That is as good of an answer to the trend question as I could hope for. Andy, we're at about an hour. Anything else that you'd like to add here? And also, please let's let everyone know where they can find you, website, email if you'd like.
Yeah, the best way to reach out. So we actually got 3 different brands. We didn't talk about that. So Creatively Disruptive is much more the kid-centric, the family-centric business, but it is the founding business. So everything kind of goes around, Creatively Disruptive is the business name, is the entity. But we have High Level Thinkers, which is our brand that is much more focused on tradesmen and house, home services and so forth. So it's highlevelthinkers.com.
Highlevelthinkers.com.
Highlevelthinkers.com, because we got to think at a high level to actually figure out all the issues that you guys have. And then the other brand is Ashworth Strategy. Now that is an e-com brand. That's purely e-commerce. If you've got an e-com product that you're trying to sell, that would be the way to go through. But Creatively Disruptive, you'll go to that and you'll see it's very kid-centric or family-centric. But if you want to reach out to me personally or talk to my team, you'll talk to pretty much the same team, just through the different brands. Go to creativelydisruptive.com and you can just reach straight out to us. But High Level Thinkers is our brand that's much more home services committed, and you'll be able to get information on that. Creatively Disruptive is the mother company or the main company, and then Ashworth Strategy is if you've got e-commerce going. So
that's great.
That would be how you reach out to us.
Perfect. And any other little tidbit you'd like to give to the audience before we close?
The biggest thing, and I kind of already said it, the biggest thing when you're working with I think agencies, I agree with you. Agencies, you find the right agency, it's going to be a game changer for your business. The problem is there's 10 shitty ones for every good one, right? I have to be honest. It's a little bit like, I feel like I was in the used car business. There's 10 shitty used car dealers for every good guy.
Yeah.
There's, insurance agency, mortgage brokers, all of these guys. It's just the way it is. make sure when you're selecting a agency that their goals are in alignment with yours, that they totally understand what your goals are. And then when you start working with them, that you're sitting on the same side of the table as partners trying to get the goals, not adversaries. Now, you might think that most agencies wouldn't want to be the adversary, but some of them do. Some of them want to be the other side of the table because they don't really want to do the work that's needed for you to have the success that you want. They want to do the bare minimum. You want to have a partner that's ready to get in there, get into the trenches with you and actually sort out what's going on. Because 9 times out of 10, your issue is not just a lack of inquiries. Your issue is how those inquiries need to be handled. What you're going to do with those inquiries. If you're handling those inquiries, do you have enough capacity to take on these people? Are you charging enough to your clients? Right? Like a lot of times we see our clients aren't charging enough, right? So
Right.
Lots and lots of issues. You want to have an agency that sits on the side of the table with you and wants to go through that whole process to make sure that you are successful and understands what success means to you.
Perfect. Well, Andy, thank you very much for this conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I thought we've covered a lot of great stuff. And, for all of you out there, all you listeners, this is the Flywheel Effect. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give us a like, a follow, or share it with someone who you think will enjoy it as well. Again, this is Brent Sonnek-Schmelz. Well, I'm here with our guest, Andy Seeley from Creatively Disruptive for the Flywheel Effect. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to the Flywheel Effect. Our journey through the intricate world of luxury home services continues to be fueled by your passion for excellence and innovation. If you found value in our conversations today, don't forget to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. More insights and resources. Visit us online at growwithvital.com. Until next time.